Hey, Pawn Leaders, welcome back to the Pawn Leaders podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And especially thank you so much for those of you who leave reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. I really appreciate the reviews. With me, I have an incredible guest. My next guest is a co-founder and CEO of Entropy and the co-inventor of Entropy's patented technology. Originally from India, Vidyuth earned a degree in journalism from I'm going to start that again, man.
You can say, well, you don't even have to say that. You can just say I was trained as a journalist. I was educated as a journalist in India.
Okay, gotcha. I'll do that. Cool. I'll start this again. So,
Sure.
All right. So official marker number 2 for the Pawn Leaders podcast episode with Vidyuth and Entropy. Hey, Pawn Leaders, welcome back to the Pawn Leaders podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the podcast. And thank you so much for those of you who have left a review on iTunes or on Stitcher. Really appreciate you guys listening. My next guest is the co-founder and CEO of Entropy and the co-inventor of Entropy's patented technology. Originally from India, Vidyuth earned a degree in journalism while simultaneously designing and developing video games for Raptor Entertainment. He then embarked on a stellar career across a variety of roles, including sales, business development, marketing, PR, and filmmaking, while also working for software giants such as Intuit and Microsoft. Vidyuth established Entropy in 2012 with his co-founders with a mission of using scalable technology to enable trust in commerce and to combat counterfeits. Following 4 years of research under the auspices of New York University, Entropy launched in September 2016 as an instant authentication service for high-value goods for the resale market. In less than a year, Entropy has authenticated over $14 million worth of inventory for its customers. Welcome to the show, Vidyuth. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much for being here. I saw a post by my cousin, Adiz, who's the general manager for my brother, Morris, about this company, Entropy, who saved them $10,000 because they used your technology. And I said, I got to find out who this is, what they do, why they do it, and bring them on the show. So welcome, man.
Well, thank you. And that's a glowing recommendation. And we have to thank our customers, especially Adiz and Cashco Pawn, for it. But that's really what we do. You know, we're trying to essentially build trust in transactions. Entropy as a company, when we started in 2012, all of us co-founders, we all had backgrounds where we generally were from middle-class working families. And we had grown up around fakes during our childhood. Like my mom would buy 2 pairs of shoes every year. One of them would be the legit regular one that the school would recommend. The other one would be one off the pavements, which would cost like 10% off the original. That was because, well, that's the way it was done. And you'd always know that when the shoe that wears off first is going to be the fake. So essentially we grew up in a world where it was okay to do it until it started hurting me, right? I'm an avid motorcyclist and I used to pretty frequently take long distance trips on my bike. And many times, in fact, I've had motor parts fail on me because they turned out to be fake.
Wow.
And that could have easily been just a brake shoe. And if that failed, I wouldn't be here talking. So over time, we basically realized together that as an industry and across commerce and across trading in the world, there's a huge problem with counterfeits. And that problem pervades almost every single industry. You know, you make it, they fake it, right? And fakes are made by everyone. It's not just one country, one geography. Anywhere where people stand to benefit, people make fakes. And because of the pervasion of it, we realized that there's a huge deficit of trust. So the idea was, could you build technology that enabled trust in transactions? You know, whether people are buying and selling high value goods, or whether it's pharmaceuticals, or whether it's a battery for your phone, whatever it is. The idea is, with the prevalence of e-commerce, you don't even know who you're buying from. How do you know if the product that you're buying from is real or not? And anytime you usually spend over $100 on something, there is always that nagging question in the back of your mind. Is that real? Or do I have to look for signs to see if it's a scam? And that's exactly what we're trying to solve.
Got it. So, being a pawnbroker myself for 16 years, one of the most annoying things was, when an employee or even myself, we'd buy a fake coin or a bangle, that we paid out $500 for, and it ended up being fake.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen a lot of, the handbag industry, which I think you guys are in, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the past, but all of a sudden the handbag industry started blowing up within pawn shops, right? People started buying. We started getting bags back in the day before Entropy came out. And we were just like, well, we don't know if it's real or not. So we'd say no to them all the time. But now almost every pawnbroker has, a handbag or shoes. They're taking in different types of products. So let's take a step back. You started Entropy, right? Because of this place that you came from India, I believe, where there was a lot of fakes growing up and you knew you had to do something about it. How does somebody who worked in PR and business and sales go to, create a technology that helps find counterfeit products? How did that happen?
Good question. Well, me and my co-founders, we've always had a solid technology background. My co-founders, in fact, one of them is an associate professor at NYU, and he's our chief scientist. And the other is our CTO, and he is a computer vision expert, which basically has to deal with images. So when we got together, we realized that, hey, is there an unsexy problem worth solving? That was really the question. And we basically picked this because it's a $2-3 trillion a year problem that nobody really can solve in a scalable manner. So that was really the technology challenge that we started with. But once we started and got into it, we realized that it's way bigger than we imagined. Like I said, initially I thought, oh, you know what? Let's try fake art. And handbags were way down the line. Then we realized that almost everything that costs any money to buy can be faked. So it just became bigger and bigger as we continued to explore it. And the idea of building something that gives you instantaneous results, that was an evolution where we realized that we as a company, we think in first principles. We always think in some basic hypotheses, almost as an academic or a research problem. And then we look at applying that if there does happen to be a solution. So that was kind of our phase of doing the research under the hood of NYU, where we wanted to build something that can scale across everything. See, you don't want 20 different types of holograms on 20 different types of products, right? That fragmentation kills the need or the use of security. So we wanted to build something that does not add or remove anything to a product. We wanted to build something that can handle one product in the exact same way that it can handle a million products, right? So that was scalability and versatility. And when we got to all of those constraints, the simplest idea we could think of was, hey, Apple makes 1 billion iPhones a year. If you or I tried to make that same iPhone in our own warehouses, there's probably going to be some small thing that's different, right? And if you were able to map, say, a portion of those 1 billion iPhones, then you have basically the blueprint. And once you have that blueprint, then you're not really comparing, but you're teaching computers to understand what the differences in the blueprints are.
Got it. Understood. So let's talk about the technology. So the best way I can describe it is kind of like a little gun thingy with a laser, I guess. I'm not technologically advanced.
You could call it an ultrasound.
What?
An ultrasound. It looks
like an ultrasound. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So you put it against a handbag or whatever products that Entropy does, and it kind of gives you like an instant fake or real. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. And if we call it authentic, well, if our algorithms call it authentic, we also issue a certificate of authenticity that we back with money. Basically, yeah, it's like insurance.
Yeah. So talk about the products that Entropy can detect. What type of products are people using it for right now?
So today in market, most of our customers, and we have over 300 customers of all shapes and sizes, from some of the biggest marketplaces in the world to single mom and pop store. We don't discriminate because we understand that trust is a problem anywhere. But most of them use it to detect handbags and leather accessories from the top 15 to 16 brands today. but we're constantly adding to it. So, for example, when we started in September 2016, we literally had the support for one single type of bag. And even that got us like 20, 30 customers because, that's what the market saw the most of. So we started with that, and within a year and a half, we now have expanded to over 40 to 45 different types of materials, styles, shapes, everything. So today it's handbags, but the fact that we're versatile and scalable means that we have to be looking into expanding into either adjacent or completely horizontal verticals. So we are looking at sneakers right now, pretty deep into it, and it works really well. We are looking into watches, jewelry, shoes, apparel. We're already working with retailers in Europe to secure apparel, and especially expensive Rolex watches as well. So all the plans are afoot, and we will be making announcements soon.
Nice. So let's talk about the pawn industry, especially.
Yeah.
How did you guys find the pawn industry, and what got you guys to put up a booth at a show and say, wait a second, this is an industry that we want to be in and that they need our service?
Oh, absolutely. So to be honest, the pawn industry was the last industry or the segment that I thought of when I was, taking this product out to the market. We didn't even have product then. I was just doing basic research. But the second or third person I met turned out to be a pawn shop owner in Vegas. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Michael Mack, and he runs Mack's Pawn.
Oh, I know Michael Mack. Yeah.
Yeah. So I bumped into him. We started talking, and the next thing I knew, I realized that, hey, the pawn business relies on the speed of sales, on being able to convey trust, and also know if an item or a person who's selling an item to you is trustworthy or not. These are all things that you train yourself to. But then how do you train yourself to know everything about everything? You don't. And nobody can afford that time, money, expertise, whatever it is. Risk, most importantly. So we realized that many pawn shops don't even take in handbags, exactly like you said, because they don't know how to authenticate. Not because pawn people are some of the most financial savvy people on earth. They know, they see money walking in and out the door. When they see a handbag, they know that stuff's going to sell in 3 or 4 days for, maybe 40, 50% margin sometimes. And I realized that that's a gap and an opportunity that we could look into. And then I built closer relationships with the pawn industry through Max Pawn. And yeah, that's kind of where it started. And then when I started talking to some prospective customers, in our business, we look at small and medium businesses, enterprises, and then large marketplaces. Even though we were talking, we got a lot of interest from all the bigger players. The people who jumped on it first because they just saw the opportunity were the folks in the pawn industry, and for that I am today and will forever be extremely grateful. And fortunately, we have been able to provide a lot of new opportunity, new revenue, a lot of saved times, and of course, most importantly, reduced risk to almost zero.
That's I think one of the most important things for pawn shops, right? For us being pawnbrokers, there's so much risk coming into the door every single day, from jewelry to electronics, musical instruments, counterfeit, so many different aspects of the industry. And you said something right. You can't know everything about everything. And pawnbrokers sometimes believe, and I believe this, that, with the internet, we know it all. We can do it all. But I remember letting so much business go because I just wasn't sure, or we were 85%. And not all of us have the resources like the guys in Vegas, like the Pawn Stars, where an expert can come in to check every item out. But like you said, it's such a volatile market today. We can't let money walk out the door because the industry is a little bit tougher than it used to be. So having software and a resource like you guys or hardware, I think makes a very, very big difference in the industry, so that I can just use this thing and it says yay or nay, and then explain again. If it says yes, you give a certificate of authentication. If for some reason Entropy didn't work, you back that with insurance saying, we'll pay what you paid for it, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you took in an item based on our guidance or our decision that that item we believe is authentic, and eventually there's some issue with it, and we have an internal process where we can determine if we were wrong. And we don't do it ourselves, of course. We use third parties and unbiased sources, basically. And if the consensus proves that we, Entropy, were wrong, then whatever you paid for it, we give you that money in whole, and we take that item off of your hands. Because
So
the idea is simple. Yeah.
So essentially it's a no-brainer. Like, if you use it and it's real, you sell it, you make the margin, you make your money back from the investment. And if you use it and for some reason it doesn't work, I'm sure that's a small margin of times,
yeah,
you get your money back.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
I mean,
there's very seldom does a guarantee come into the industry like this. And so take advantage of that. I mean, you're essentially guaranteeing your product.
Absolutely. And it's not just during intake, right? Many people use it in so many different ways. Some of the bigger players use it for scale and repeatability and the speed and the efficiency of it. But the smaller folks, it's more important to them because it's not just the risk that you reduce when you take in product. It's also when you have to sell that product. Because a lot of them are, the loans don't get, they kind of expire. You own that inventory and then that becomes a liability. So you want to get rid of it. But why would someone on eBay trust you versus somebody else who has a solid rating, right?
Yeah.
How do you convey that trustworthiness? That's why that certificate is super useful. Many of our customers, especially in the pawn and consignment business, when they put up an item that they authenticated through us with the certificate versus when they don't, the ones with the certificate end up being sold like 40 to 60% faster. Not just because of the certificate, of course. I mean, we can't really claim that. But the key difference is when you go on a big website and you look up an item and you see a certificate versus not, and that certificate also importantly comes from a third party, that's super important, right? And when they see that, then they ask questions saying, what is this certificate about? Where'd you get it checked out? How do you know it's real? Blah, blah, blah. And then they contact us too. And when we verify that, there's much more engagement. There's a much, much, much higher probability of that item selling faster. So net, everybody wins. That's the whole point, right? Once you have trust as that bottom layer, the buyer gets a good product that's trustworthy, the seller makes extra money faster, and we make a small cut off that entire transaction.
Do you know, right now in the industry, the pawn industry, I've seen, for example, like my brother's store and Michael Mack and some other big players in the industry doing a lot of the handbags.
Mm-hmm.
Would you happen to know how much of an increase they've had in these handbags after using Entropy?
Well, across the industry, it's a little hard to say, also because not all of our customers are focusing their core on handbags. But what I do know is every day we have at least 3 to 4 inquiries from pawn shops, not just in the US, but around the world. Mm-hmm. And we already have customers on a global level. And we either find people saying, hey, we're thinking of getting into it, help us through it. Or we see people saying we get 1 or 2. We know something about this one brand, but you know almost everything about everything. Well, we don't. It's really data, right? Data can know everything about everything. Humans, it's much harder. That's really the point. So when they come to us, what we are hearing from the industry is everyone wants to get into bags. Also because almost every pawn shop, bar 1 or 2, are physical stores. They all have a geography and an audience that they cater to. And they see people walking around their store. They see women with expensive handbags. So what people end up doing actually is they get our service. They also make money off of it. And we're very happy that they do by offering an offline authentication service. So they use our technology and they say, hey, get your bags in, get them checked out. And we help them conduct events. What that helps is A, it gives them more walk-ins. And B, now they're able to house some handbags, get in more people. And also the other aspect is cross-selling and upselling with jewelry.
Yeah, I agree.
Women wouldn't walk in easily. Today they walk in because they see bags. It looks better for them to walk into. Looks less unsafe. so to
Yeah,
speak.
I follow a couple of pawn shops on Instagram,
Hmm.
and Beth, who was a guest on the show,
Hmm.
has Capital Pawn, and she does like sip and sale. So she's got like women who come in and they drink wine and they buy purses and they buy. I mean, she's created a whole event around the handbag.
Exactly,
It's incredible.
exactly. And it works. It just works because most people who live in these neighborhoods, they always think of buying handbags on, either from their friends or some no-name party on some website. But if you're able to give them that entire experience and the experience of, hey, this has never existed. You always thought of me as some shady guy behind a counter, but then now look, we are opening it up to ensure that we build a long-term sustainable relationship. And that really works. And
Yeah.
that's what we're so happy to see our customers go through. One of them, so we, like the event that you spoke about, one of them conducted a similar event where, we got some media and we helped them get media, and they had a 2-day free authentication event. People walk in, get your items checked out for free, get a certificate, right? And the next couple of months after that, their business grew by like 150% just in the bag sector alone.
That's amazing. So let's do this, man. I want to see, you've done a lot of research in counterfeits
Yeah.
and what it takes, right? Obviously, there's some people listening who don't own Entropy.
Uh-huh.
And I want to talk about like the 3 biggest tells for counterfeits today. Even if you don't have Entropy, I want to really give some value on the show. What are like 3 of the biggest tells when someone walks in, and we're talking about handbags mostly,
Right.
that that it's that because you've done the research that
Mm-hmm.
it could be a counterfeit?
I mean, there's some basic red flags. To be honest, the folks in the pawn industry they should all be like detectives. They're just so good at detecting BS. It's amazing. Like they just look at you and they know. But from what we've heard, so here's one that's pretty common. Oh, I got this as a gift. When it's a gift, why are you getting rid of it? So, I mean, something doesn't add up. Second is when people come in with the idea of being in a hurry, that's also never a good thing. Everyone would like to get things done quicker, but there's some people who would come in and would just want to get rid of it. There's a little bit of anxiety around it. When there's anxiety around it, usually when someone walks in, they're looking to get the best price, right? They're not looking to get rid of something. So that's number 2. Number 3, of course, the item itself. Many people would come to you, and so counterfeits have gotten so good that you don't just look for red flags that prove the negative. You also need to look for red flags that prove the positive, which is if the item and the deal is too good to be true, in most cases, well, almost all cases, it is too good to be true.
Yeah.
But here's how you see it with the item itself. People walk in with receipts nowadays. That doesn't mean anything. If you're looking to buy, let me put it this way. If you're looking to buy a suit, right, a 2-piece suit, if someone gives you a belt along with it saying this comes with it, and they say the belt is real too, there's absolutely no basis for that. It's an extra piece. So when people come to you with a Chanel bag and they say, hey, I have this authenticity card or I have a receipt, it doesn't mean anything. Those things they're easier to copy than the bag itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a post the other day where people are walking in with counterfeit receipts.
Yeah.
And
that happens so much with sneakers. It's ridiculous. And they always keep coming up with these new addresses that are fictitious, which is amazing. Like they just pick a random address and it's in Oklahoma or something. Who would have a Foot Locker store in Oklahoma in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
But that's part of the problem. So all of these are designed to dupe people who aren't paying attention.
So you got to pay attention.
Always.
I agree. So give us like really quickly, man, like a 30-second synopsis of how the technology works. Obviously, you're not going to give away your patented secret, but how does the technology work?
Sure. So there's 4 big components. One is the device, which is essentially a piece of a handheld digital microscope, right? What our users do is they take image samples of different parts of an item in question. If it's a sneaker, it's different components. If it's bags, it's different. And they take these image samples and they use our handheld mobile app which connects to this device. The images go to the app, and the app sends it to our computers. And then the computers come back and instantly give you a result with a very, very high degree of accuracy, like in the very high 90s.
Wow.
And the reason it works is because those computers have been trained to understand the minute microscopic differences and other metadata. It could be a serial number, it could be many other associative factors that allow the computer to decide with a high degree of accuracy whether it belongs to the real class of objects or whether it's the fake class. That's it.
Got it. Well, I'm sure it sounds really easy, but it was years of research and development. Well, Vidyuth, I want to thank you for coming on the show, man. I think that what you guys are doing for other industries, but especially the pawn industry, is very, very, very important. Especially, like I said before, with margins getting smaller in the industry, with all these online sellers, places where people are buying online, you're giving the opportunity to the pawn industry to make a couple of bucks with an item that they might have feared taking in before. So I applaud you for it, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on, and thank you to everyone who's listening. A lot of the industry has really adopted us and given us a place to start and grow. So we thank you for your dedication, and hope we can make you more money, save you more time, and reduce risk.
Awesome. So if you want to find Entropy, it's www.entropy.com. And that's ENTRUPY, correct?
That's it.
So go to entropy.com, check out the product. I'm sure if you guys have questions, you guys can call the support number and ask as many questions as you want. If you do have a question for Vidyuth, please let me know in the Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group, you got to jump into the Facebook group. It's Pawn Leaders Podcast Community, where we talk about the episodes and things that are going on in the industry. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Have an incredible day, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.